there's no way that that's the stock here and the barrel's pointing up here, because it would be poking out up here. I can't really make a case for a rifle here. I'm sorry. And the other thing we could do, though, is talk about what happened after the shot got taken, because we had this one video from the Hall of Flags. This person's inside. All these people are facing Charlie's tent would be right about here, but they're shooting this from inside, and then it's really critical. So this is exactly where this person was. I could identify where they were. So we're seeing basically their cameras pointed in this field of view. You can see from here to here, but you can't quite see this spot yet. And so let me see if... I'll show you. That's the thing in full view, in full frame. But now let's slow it down a little bit. You can see the guy on the roof there. I had my video guy stabilize that. Did you see that little black dot moving across up there? Yeah. So this is where it gets kind of interesting, because if you watch a couple things, how the crowd reacts in a wave and the roof guy, and when the crowd reacts, some people react very slowly. Some are going to react instantly to a shot like that. And so you can already see that at the time that this is being taken, people are still reacting, and roof guy is already up and running. So that tells us that he can't possibly have had time to disassemble the rifle, because he's up and running within a second of the shot being taken. And so he has to be carrying a full rifle at that point in time. So we can't be accounting for a disassembled rifle. He's already up. You can see him bent over. He is tucking. He's moving. Within 2 seconds, he's out of frame on this whole thing. So I think that gives us a little bit more to work with.
And the roof guy, Chris, the roof guy is in Tyler's position. That's where Tyler Robinson's allegedly positioned, correct? Okay.
Yep. Yeah. Sorry. So that actually tracks perfectly. This is the little promontory. This is the Losi building. He's just stood up. This is the very first time we can see him. I think he's bent over, but I'm squinting at blobby figures. But he does seem to straighten up and run, and we see him for a few frames. But this is exactly where we would have expected the shooter position to have been, the alleged shooter position. So, yeah, that's what we have to work with there.
Yeah, he stood up relatively quickly. Yeah, what do you think, Matt?
Yeah, I'm in a complete and total agreement. I said the only maybe reasonable explanation I could see for why it's not, visible through the side of his pants, and talking about the rifle being stuck in there, is it's on his backside. But I also don't see at all how the rifle could be on his backside, because of the backpack, everything that Chris pointed out. So I just want to make sure I'm perfectly clear here. I am in agreement with Chris on this. I do not see a rifle on him at that point in time.
Yeah, apparently there's an expert. There was a theory as well, Matt. Sorry to interrupt. There's a theory that some expert early on, a day after the shooting or 2 days afterwards, that talked on TV about the gun being disassembled relatively quickly. But Chris, you've gone through the photos. It doesn't seem to be any indications that this gun can be disassembled. And the people that were disassembling it on TikTok, and Matt, you're an expert as well, you're kind of implying the same things, that it's really not possible to disassemble it that quickly. And if you link that, with the fastest one on TikTok, Chris, I think you said it was like 50 seconds. And then if you link that to the video we've seen, Chris, of you've just played, it's not possible, because the gentleman who's meant to be Tyler Robinson got up and ran as soon as he took the shot, very quickly. So there's no time to really disassemble it.
Yeah, nor does it make sense to do it right there on the rooftop either. If you really put yourself in his shoes, my goal is to get out of there and try to survive at that point in time, right? To try to get out and try to get away. You've already just fired off a gunshot. People are generally going to be looking for you. They know you're going to be there. You're not going to want to sit there and play around with a rifle and try to unscrew it forever. It's just not plausible.
So to that point, Mario, you made, Matt, I'd love to get both your opinion on this, because this really bothered me, and listen, this may not be the actual rifle. This is just what the New York Post reported first, and everybody's been pushing this around. I've reversed image searched it. I can't find that this is a stock photo that's been repurposed. So I'm going to have to take it at face value that this is the actual gun. Matt, what I see here is that this is really far back of the rings. I mean, this scope is so far back. I have to wonder if it didn't get jarred or bounced, or like it was not completely tight, and when he dropped it off the roof, if that's what happened, it got jarred. But it also, just by eye, doesn't actually look completely orthogonal and set proper. I don't know, but that was the rifle that we have to work with here. And it just looks completely like somebody's changed probably the old wood stock, put a composite stock on here, but otherwise it's a pretty old, model 98. Mm-hmm. And then we had this guy, right, saying this.
Market accessory.
Let's go up to here.
And it doesn't expel the cartridge either, which I learned. So he took that cartridge with him, and it was found inside the gun, according to some reports, along with some others in a magazine. How quickly, if it is broken down, because it doesn't look like he's jumping with a long rifle tucked in his leg. It looks like it's got to be in that backpack. So how quickly could he break it down if he needed to break it down?
A second or two.
What?
Literally just push a button and wrap it around, push another button and wrap it back. They're designed to be able to be put into full length mode or compact mode extremely quickly.
I don't mean to laugh at that guy, but no. Yeah, no.
This is the guy who's the expert witness for the Rust shooting. He's
Lord.
He's all over. He's a movie guy. He's a Hollywood guy. He's an expert witness for all the majors. So this is the guy they bring on. And
I hope they don't bring him in for defense. Holy cow.
There's a button you push.
Not on that stock, sir. No, there's not.
No.
So Matt, you agree that the gun cannot be disassembled that quickly, because that won't be an explanation. Because
right.
Yeah. Like, I'm just trying to find an explanation of why the gun does not show in those photos of Tyler going up the stairs. And when he's jumping off the roof, he's got that towel, but it doesn't seem like there's a rifle under it, even though it's pixelated.
So the only explanation I can give for why it's not on him as he's going up the stairs is because it was pre-positioned and he had help. That way he didn't draw extra attention as he's walking across campus. He was able to recover it, maybe tuck in his pants later on, and then move into position, right? As far as him going off the roof, we could be talking about the same camera quality and everything else with the pixels and the light and all of those things that I really don't understand, even though I've been working with cameras for years now. And when we start talking about the surveillance footage, which is something else I wanted to point out, Chris, when you mentioned the timestamps that was on the CCTV, I can't tell you the amount of CCTV footage I've looked at in law enforcement that has the incorrect times on it. It is probably one of the most frustrating things for law enforcement officers in general, is to try to find the exact moment in time, and you're searching through footage at the wrong date and time because nothing is properly labeled. Mm-hmm. So that's a very reasonable explanation.
No, that wouldn't surprise me in the slightest, particularly after the Epstein jailhouse footage.
Right.
Well,
there's one. Mario, can I point out one other thing too, as well, about just the gunshot in general? If we go back and we listen to like the different witness statements, and Chris, you could probably vouch for this. Chris, did you, and Mario, did you guys hear the witness statements that were saying that it almost seemed like it was just suppressed, like it was too quiet? You guys remember hearing that? People stating that?
No, I've heard all kinds of witness statements, and of course those are the least reliable. Some people said exactly. it was just one explosion. It was right near the stage, and
and also Chris, you've pointed out witnesses pointing in a different direction as well. You've had photos of these as well. But sorry, continue with yours, Matt.
Yeah, so that can be accounted just from things.
One.
Yeah, so there's witnesses that have stated that it almost seemed suppressed, or it was too quiet to be a 30-06 from that close up. And as Chris stated, eyewitness statements are some of the most unreliable because they're just not expecting it, and you have this significant event that happens, and then it's very traumatic for them. They're not used to seeing things like that, and so they're just unreliable when it comes out. But there is people that have stated that, and when we start talking about a reduced muzzle velocity, that 100% goes into it. If you end up having powder that has been damaged over time with water, oil, etc., that could have potentially leaked in there and caused a lower burn rate so that it didn't all burn by the time it ended up getting out. Not all powder ends up burning anyways by the time it ends up leaving the barrel most of the time, depending on the barrel length. But, there's several different things that we can look at that accounts for that as well. Just wanted to make sure I remember to put that in there.
And Chris, you want to also comment on the photos you have of witnesses pointing at a different direction? You've analyzed that direction as well. Do you have that in your slides? I'm not sure if you've seen that, Matt.
Yeah, let me get to that in just a second because I have this in front of me, and this will help clear up one thing. So what we're looking at here, these are audio sonograms, and so these are from recordings from the shooting. The shooting was these are all pulled from this tape that was right over here, just to Charlie's left. This is an auditory nightmare because this whole place is just like an echo chamber. But what we're seeing here is the classic. This is the SNCC. This is the supersonic round coming in hot. And this is the report from the gun, but it's a double report for some reason. So I'm guessing there's a very close surface it bounced off of.
Yep.
And then we're seeing the echoes. This is the snick repeated again, snick, echo, snick, another echo. So it's bounced, the sounds are bouncing around. So for an eyewitness, and this is all happening in 200 milliseconds. So it's obviously people are going to hear all kinds of crazy stuff, and they're all going to be right. But it's depending on where they stood, they're going to hear different things. But this does give us at least some information, which is, with this 170 millisecond delay, as soon as we know the velocity of the cartridge, I can begin to draw circles on a map and tell you what's in the realm of possible for shooting positions, because this part is just lockdown science. The supersonic round travels at X feet per second. It's ahead of the report of the gun because the gun is traveling at sonic speed, at the speed of sound. And so the round comes over and it makes that crack. And then the boom is the next part. So this at least tells us, no, it wasn't an exploding mic, because we would just have one sound signature and it would come from the stage, and that would be that. No, it wasn't a suppressed round, because this is a supersonic round. They always leave big explosive sounds. They make a lot of noise. There could have been suppressed rounds on top of that, but now we got to get really esoteric and we don't have data for that. But there was at least one hot round. It came down range, and where this recording was taken, there was 170 millisecond delay. Is crack thump, the CT delay. That's I can't say a whole lot. I've analyzed as many as I've got. I would make the plea now that if anybody actually has the original recordings off of these things, I need original recordings, not copies of recordings. And we need in particular the metadata off of these things so that we can see exactly when that incident was recorded. So now we can begin to get a proper timeline, and then we can begin to make other statements about things. But without that, we really have very poor data. Given I can count, in some of these, I can count 30 phones held up at the time of the shooting in just a single frame. And we have 5 key recordings to work with right now. It's not enough. I know there's more out there, and I wish we had more of that data. But at least this tells us what we're dealing with, and we have all of that crack thump stuff going on there, which tells us stuff.
You know, Chris, if you have an original like 4K recording and we know where that particular person was standing, and it actually shows the impact of the round, I mean, light obviously travels ridiculously fast and is a variable at 160 or 140 meters that we don't have to account for. And so if we look and we say, okay, we've got this original recording, we know approximately where this person was at, what we can do is we can say that when the projectile ends up impacting into Charlie's neck in that frame, and then we could calculate the time in which it takes to hear that crack, and we could estimate the muzzle velocity of that projectile that ends up coming out. And we could take that estimated muzzle velocity and then apply it to a low and a high grain. And we can say, this is essentially how that projectile should be performing. And then we would be able to rule out whether or not that position is or is not, actually viable.
So to get that, you'll need the original recording with the metadata, and you'll need the image of the cartridge so you know what type of cartridge it is. These are the two variables you need?
Well, the very best recordings are going to be those that were taken off of Charlie's lapel mic, because that's going to be the actual perfect frame of reference. It's going to tell you, it's going to give you the most precise data you could have. So whatever TPUSA had, I know they had 4K recordings and they had the mics, they had this mic. I assume it's all recorded. If we had those would be really helpful. The reason we have a lot of them that are not helpful is the people were just outside in front of Charlie's area, and he's holding a mic. And so actually, we're hearing it just gets totally distorted because that first crack comes out the amplified speakers, messes everything up. Yep. That's why I had to use somebody from the side to get what I thought was a decent crack thump.
Or getting the recording directly from TPUSA, which I'd assume that they would they release it without the investigation while the investigation is ongoing, or would that play part of the investigation as well?
So technically, it's their property; they can do with it what they want. But if they release it, it could jeopardize the investigation.